Here we go. I think I'm live. I'm going to bring some people up here. James, how you doing?
Hey, Ken.
Give me a heads up. We are live, I think.
Oh, cool. Hey, everybody.
I'm watching on my phone. And let's jump on with Steve. Hey, Steve.
Hey, guys.
We are live, or we could be.
I'm glad I'm having a good hair day.
There we go. Okay. I see us on there, and we are live, Alex, so we are in. So that's your fair warning. You came right into a live stream.
Boom.
Stream.
So,
Stream.
okay, I have my phone muted, so I'm going to take one viewer away from our viewership. If anyone, so it looked like we had about 8 people viewing, watching, waiting, and we've got some comments popped up, and I see people there. I apologize to everyone. Melon app is interesting. Once you set something up and then kick it off and then come back later, it's hard to find the right stream space. So looks like, gentlemen, can you see the comments to the side, or will I be the one kind of bringing them up for us?
I see them.
Okay.
I see them.
Excellent. So we're going to bring up.
I can't chat with them.
So you should be able, if you do open up another screen or go to YouTube, mute it, and you can chat in there. This only shows us what the chat is. So
okay.
All right. I have one more screen to bring up, everybody, and we will go right into our intro. Window and oh, danger. Sure. Show on screen. There's our 4. We are back. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I appreciate the patience and kicking off about 10 minutes late. We're going to spend about a half an hour and talk about what unsigged setup is for the marketplace. So if this is your first shot into this introduction, what we have is you have to understand 3 core principles. One is that there's the artwork. There's the unsigged artwork. With Monad, Mr. Alexander Monad set that up early on and made that a product, if you will, just to take it down to its most raw thing. It's really weird just to sit here in front of the artist and trying to describe what his art is, but in that core tenet of what is going on or why it's happening, I'm hitting those marks. James from Gimbalabs is going to help explain exactly what the details are and what challenges we face as a community. So when you talk about the product itself that the unsigged revolves around, we have what's called the unsigged DAO. And you may know me in understanding that in the DAO world, we look at what does that mean? Well, other than a decentralized autonomous organization, what is a DAO? And it's an experiment. In my view, it's something that we're still developing and forming and building. But the DAO, or the community that wraps itself around the unsig art, made a decision a few months ago to create a marketplace. So what is a marketplace? That's a place where you can take and sell and buy and trade your products, but do it specifically. So if you just go to a general box store, all the products are there. Or you can go to a very specific location in a market and buy and sell that one thing. The advantage to that for a community is that if it's a community-owned marketplace, all of the proceeds from the sales go back into that community and to the original artist. So that is what was considered and developed and built, but nobody in that whole community said, hey, we know exactly how to build that marketplace. Fortunately, there are some wide open tools in the open source world that we live in, and we have the tool. We made the decision, and I say I wasn't in that first decision making block, except for as an owner of Unsigged, I support the people who support Unsigged. So the Unsigged DAO decided to partner up with Gimbalabs. Gimbalabs has the skills, has the ability to create the marketplace, and they have a deliverable product now that is a marketplace itself. So this marketplace is live. It is not out on the main website yet. There are a number of things that have to happen, but in discussions through Discord, which is a lot of discourse, and it's great feedback and communication, and especially with the experiment of a DAO, we kind of, in my opinion, stumble over our toes and talk about, well, if we want it decentralized, but we need to hear this person's opinion, or we have this tool, or we have that. There's a lot going on. So we've brought it back down and we said, okay, what is the marketplace? What is it actually? Where is it? How is it? And what do we do with it? So I hope I'm not rambling. I got a little bit caught up because little technical difficulties on my end. But I'm going to hand it straight over to James at this point, who can help us understand, as a representative from Gimbalabs, what it is that has been delivered to the DAO community so that we can have a marketplace, and what steps that we need to take as a community to move forward, and go with that. If you're not aware, excuse me, Alex is here. Steve Lockhart is here as well. And I see that we have Wolf Bless on the stream. We have Eric S. in the stream. Tim Kavanaugh's in the stream. Celion is in the stream. So excellent. Glad to see you all here. Thank you for taking your time this very early morning for me, and whatever time of day it is for you. Thank you so much. Thank you, James. Take it from here.
All right. Hey, guys. And Ken, thanks for hosting this. Steve, good to see you. Alex, good to see you. So the marketplace consists of actually 3 separate projects that are all working together. And so I want to take everybody through those 3 different project repositories and talk about the accessibility of each and how the DAO might move forward on development of each one. And our goal was to build something that could grow. So I agree with everybody, right? There is plenty of room to grow on this marketplace, and we have the privilege of experimenting with shared governance and learning how to further build this thing together. And that's really every decision we made at Gimbalabs was with that in mind, with that later on growth. So we originally took on the project of forking another marketplace, the Space Buds, and just changing a couple things and releasing that. And early on in our work, we realized, okay, that would not be a sustainable approach. We actually need to go back to the beginning and build this thing from scratch, because Plutus is evolving. Ways of interacting with it are evolving. And we even saw this week that Space Buds released a ground up redesign of their own marketplace too, because everybody's doing this work together. And that's why it's hard, but that's also the opportunity here. So I want to distinguish between these 3 different repos, and I just dropped into the Discord a link to a document that has links to all 3. Ken, I'm happy to drive by sharing, or I'm happy to guide you to navigate. What do you think is best?
Well, let's do the guide and navigate, and then that way everyone else can see me stumble and they'll feel more comfortable when they do it too.
Awesome. If you have Discord open, there's a link to just a Google Doc with a couple of links there.
Okay.
Do you mind pulling that up?
So that is going to be in the
unsigned
main
DAO, yeah.
DAO general. Okay.
Yeah.
In the videos.
Uh-oh. I bring it into the right field view.
Perfect. Yeah, we can see that. That's great. Okay, so right here, just a doc to organize what's here. And y'all, this is an open document, so you can take it and make any notes that you need to in here. All right, so we've got a front end, we've got a Plutus contract, we've got a back end, There is a live and open API
Okay.
that's currently hosted at this URL right here, pro mainnet.gimbalabs.io. Okay. And somebody asked in Discord last week if we were delivering an API, and yes, we are. Okay. So we can talk about how to use this in just a moment. All right. But anybody is going to be able to pull information from there. Now I want to start with the most complicated part, right? So Plutus, we recognize, is specialized knowledge that anybody can gain, but it takes a long time, right? To build a safe Plutus contract, you definitely want somebody who knows what they're doing working on that. And if you're on mainnet, mainnet is not a place for experimenting with contracts, all right?
Okay.
And the good news about the Plutus part is that once it's built, it's built. And if we changed anything about it, by the nature of how Plutus works, it would change fundamentally where the contract lives on chain, right? The contract would now have a different address, and we would have to change that accordingly in our back end and our front end, right?
Okay.
So as we started developing, we said, okay, look, let's make sure that creating an offer and consuming an offer by basically buying an unsig, let's make sure that works. And then in the future, let's think about what functionality we want to add to that contract. And each time something is added there, that will be a major upgrade, right, to the marketplace. The back end is slightly more accessible, right, and lower stakes to change. We can do experiments on the back end and think about what information we want to deliver to the front end, okay? It still takes specialized knowledge to build that, but we can talk about a process for continuing to evolve that. And I want to look together at some of the data that we can pull from there in an open way in just a moment.
Can I ask a question, James?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the back end that you guys had to build, is this doing some of the stuff that we hear from input output saying we're going to deliver the Plutus back end? I mean, did you kind of have to do it by hand as opposed to having stuff available to you?
You know, okay. Yeah, so when we talk about Plutus, there is an on-chain part of Plutus and an off-chain part. The off-chain part, one way to interact with it is through what's called the Plutus application backend, which is the official version of that PAB is not yet live on mainnet. So in the meantime, people can use things like the front end that we're going to look at in just a moment to do the coordination work that the Plutus application backend is eventually going to do. Our backend should not be confused with the Plutus application backend, but there is a little bit of functionality there that's necessary to get that backend, to get that Plutus backend functionality, right? And so just to zoom out a little bit more, Plutus has that on-chain and off-chain code, like I mentioned. The job of the on-chain code is only to say yes or no, right? To either validate or not validate a transaction. It's the only thing it can do. The backend, right, the PAB or the Plutus application backend, the job of that off-chain part is to build valid transactions that are then submitted to the on-chain part of Plutus, which again, either can only validate or not validate. Now, if the job of the PAB is to build valid transactions, then we can think of that as the goal, right? So any other method of building valid transactions is accomplishing the same thing. And that's what our front end does, right? It takes input from a user, and then it builds a transaction either for creating an offer and sending that to the contract address, or for saying, I want to buy this unsig, right? And consuming a UTXO from the contract address, or canceling or updating an offer. Again, everybody's going to choose how far they want to go into that tech, okay? And the whole purpose of Gimbalabs is to teach more people how to do that stuff. We're learning it together. We're building up the expertise of our community together. But it's okay if you don't want to go that far, right? In order to make, for example, copy edits to the front end, you don't have to think about Plutus at all. And you don't have to fear breaking anything, right? Because making a couple changes to the text, for example, on the About page or the home page of this site, that's not going to break the contract. It's safe to make these changes, right? And for now, our team can approve those changes, right? We can just double check to make sure it's not breaking anything. We can merge those changes. That management is something that is critical that we hand off to the DAO as soon as the DAO is ready. Because that's what we're doing here. This is, Alex, this is why what you've done here resonates with me the most, is you've built something that gives people a chance to learn more about how things work. And so we're trying to do the same thing here. So if it's helpful, we can look at that Plutus code. That would be more like a show and tell. So we can go that direction if you guys want to. But my instinct is that a better use of time would be to take a quick look at the unsigs backend, not the Plutus part, just to see what APIs are there. And then to look at how to make changes to the front end.
Okay. So, and I'll be the total plebe and say, okay, what? And what I'm understanding, what I'm hearing you say with this is that there's 4 different levels of what's happening. I don't have to go from A, B, C, and D and E. I can pick C and say, okay, I'm going to focus on it. If I'm a community member, if I'm somebody in the unsig DAO world, if I'm looking for a part-time job, if I'm looking for part-time volunteerism, whatever that is, you don't have to advance all the way to a certain level to get to that point. What we're looking for is a community member to step up in different segments. So as a quick sidebar to what the entire unsig DAO community is working towards and had just recently voted for is to start building into task groups, similar to what we're doing here with it was a touch of marketing and seeing what it is for the marketplace. We need to hit these certain elements to make it happen. Whether it's research and tech, artistic development, the treasury management, all the different pieces and parts of what a DAO is going to need members from the community, and that community is unsig owners who want to perpetuate everything. Because as much as, and I didn't put our images in order, but we are standing on Alex's shoulders right now, the way that I see it, because we're all waiting for him to just look up and go, okay, guys, here it is. But at some point, somebody's going to shrug and say, listen, I'm not here to manage everything and hand it off to you. They're just trying to make it so we can do our pieces and parts. So what I'm hearing you say is that on the front end, you as a Gimbalabs are willing in the near term to let John Doe sit up and say, you know what, I want to know more about front end, and you guys can work it out and communicate and set it up. If Jane Doe steps up and says, I want to help out on the market contract piece, that really, I feel like that can help out and work on it. They can step in and do that. And nobody here has to be solely unsig only, because other communities are building and growing and doing, and they may be on the same path that matches what unsig's doing right now, and they can learn and teach and play in the same sketch. So I agree with you. Go to the back end on the docs and kind of show us what makes me understand and feel comfortable. Because otherwise you're going to be opening up the matrix and I'm going to go, yeah, that's pretty. I get it.
Well, and for this part,
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Can I ask one question? Because I can be even more of a plebe than Ken here. So like if we want to if we want to have on the marketplace the ability to show a group of unsigs that fit together and that we want to sell together, is that a front end thing? Is that a back end thing? It's still the same contract. You're just kind of adding more unsigs to it, right? You don't have to change the contract to do that, do you?
You could compose it. Basically, what you would do is in the front end, you would make it such that you would kind of hide the fact that there's actually 5 individual contracts, and you would kind of make it so that if a user wants to submit it, they have to actually submit these 5 transactions simultaneously. I don't know that you can actually do that in the front end, so you could kind of fake it by what's called kind of like function composition, right? What is a sale of 5 unsigs or n unsigs? Well, it's just an atomic sale of those individual 5, but you couldn't enforce that without rewriting the contract to say, no, like this is a bundle of actually 5 things. And the danger of that would be someone could basically snipe one of the unsigs out of that bundle if they actually understood how the marketplace was working, kind of like how Sunday Swap was front run by somebody who understood the actual
Right.
inputs and outputs. I'd say for most purposes, it's probably not a danger, but I think that would probably be something that would probably need to be done through a rewrite, because you could imagine there could be monetary harm caused to someone if of a composition someone went in and took 1 out of the 4 pieces, right? Like that would be a pretty big deal to someone who had spent a lot of time and effort to build a composition. But I'd say like an example of what James is talking about in the front end would be some people have asked for the ability to add a description to unsig sale. That would actually involve 2 things. That would involve a little bit of front end code to say, hey, go retrieve a comment on this listing. And then that comment would have to be stored someplace, probably in the backend database, right? Which is this off-chain thing, which is going to say like unsig listing 275.2 has a comment attached to it, right? What is that comment? Like I bought minted during phase 1 of the unsig, drop, blah, blah, whatever it was. It's just a text string, but I'd say functionality is probably further down the line, and a discussion that could only really be opened up once the DAO shows that it can actually operate this bare minimum thing, right? Like I kind of want to table that discussion of adding features until we show that like we can actually run the stuff that James and his team have developed, right? There's no point in fantasizing about, after I get ripped, what will I be able to bench press if I can't even like lift the little dumbbell in front of me, right? Like it's just not a useful conversation to have, I don't think. Not to throw water on the thing, but
No, I see where you're at with that, and I would, if that is okay, so if that's actually Steve's motivation to get to the point where he can add a comment that says Steve's the best person in the world to his unsig, but he needs to learn step 1, 2, and 3 to get to that, then that's his goal, and that might be his driving purpose. And anybody else that's watching this later that might say, hey, you know what? If I want to get to that end goal, I need to know this. But I totally agree with where you're at with it. Is we have to get the first steps first before you get yourself on a magazine cover. So cool.
And I want to highlight what the real opportunity here is for everybody who is interested in taking it. This type of organizational governance, this shared opportunity we have to govern together, is fundamentally new. And if blockchains in general are what we claim they are, which they might not be. This is the critical piece, right? They only are if we make them so, right? But if we choose to make blockchains a tool of shared governance, then expertise in how that human part of governance works is going to be priceless in the years to come. And anybody who can say they were there now, doing the hard work of learning how to bring people together without a top-down corporate structure to make decisions, right? You are going to be very well situated to support more people with more opportunities to govern like this, right? I want to participate in this project. I do think unsigs are beautiful. Alex, we're all very proud of you as the artist for making them, but I'm here because I think that what we're practicing right now with governance is going to matter at the local level. The skills we're learning right now are going to matter in very, very real ways sooner than we think, both with the way the world is moving, but also with what these tools are allowing us to do. And we have to practice it. And the way this relates to what we're just talking about is there's a lot of different ideas within the DAO community for what to do next. And some of them are conflicting ideas. So as a developer, I can't even get involved in that conversation until people are first recognizing all of the possible ideas, coming together to see which ones are actually compatible, and then setting priorities, right? So that's task one, and that has nothing to do with writing code. We need a prioritized list of what might come next, and then the DAO needs the ability to clearly ask for those things one at a time.
Yeah. Anyone who's worked in software, like a design space is much cheaper than development space. And we're not talking about like the graphics of like, or the UX or the UI elements when we're talking about the design. Like, what is this thing and what is it aiming to do? Like until that's kind
Breaking
of
up for me. How about you guys?
nailed down a bit, there's no point in having a developer. We don't need that.
Alex, we lost you a little bit right there, right? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was cutting in and out. All I heard was there's no point in having a developer, but I think we missed something important.
Am I back or no?
I think so.
There you go.
And Alex, that's right? From the perspective of actually getting work done, there is a body of expertise about how to go from ideas to execution, right? And the layer we're adding is this shared responsibility of coming with those ideas. And I just want to reiterate that expertise in that shared governance is a priceless expertise to start cultivating right now, right? Everybody who takes the opportunity to learn about it and do that hard work to have these arguments we've been having in the unsig server, you are setting yourself up to be a leader in far more impactful ways moving forward. And we have a wonderful chance to practice it together right now. So this is the back-end repo. It's okay. Most people will probably not have to look at and learn how to edit this. Okay. But it would be great to eventually have this expertise in-house, right? So if the Unsigs DAO can develop this expertise internally, right? Or find a variety of devs, right? Not just relying on our team to keep making changes, that's a good thing. Ken, I'm going to share my screen here because you would need to create a Postman account. I'm just going to do a quick share here and show you what we've got. Okay, so in this repo.
Hey, James, let's take 1 second. Just I'm seeing it and make sure everyone else is seeing it. Looks like we still have Tim and Eric on the comments. So just checking in with the audience, make sure we're all there. And if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. And we're good to go. Thanks, James.
Cool. So in this repo, you can see how to play with this locally, right? And you don't have to know how to write this code to be able to follow this documentation and run this live on your device. And it's a cool exercise, right? To just know how to run a backend server locally. And there's documentation here, right? For example, that shows you all of the endpoints that are available. And anybody is welcome to try using, take these endpoints to their limit. And if you have ideas that you want to play with, take what's here and see if you can make the front end do what you want it to do.
So for the still plugged in Neos in the world, myself, I'm looking at this going, just play with it. Raspberry Pi, buy a server, or just in like a 1 minute version of what am I looking at?
Right. So this is the documentation, how to use it. Look, API v1 offers, right? And I shared a link in that document.
Yep.
Anybody can use this live API link. Okay, now Ken, you clicked on it and obviously it gave you an error, right? So I have to use this either with curl in the terminal window, or there's a tool called Postman where you can explore what's here.
Okay.
And right, so anybody who wants to learn a little bit about how this backend works, you don't need a new device. This on any laptop, you can make a Postman account, grab this URL, and play with some of these endpoints. Here's what I mean by that. So you see how I have Pro Mainnet API v1.
Yep.
And then in the docs it says API v1 offers. Right? So I just combine those and I say, look, here's that URL. Let me just make this a little bit wider. All right. Here's that URL, the live API v1, and here's one thing that I could type after that, right? And this is a paginated listing, right? So this will start at unsig 0 and return 10 per page, but I could make it start at 20,000 and I could return 25 per page. That'll give me a different response. And why didn't that? Oh, page number. This says page number, not unsig number. So there's not 20,000 times 25 unsigs.
But you didn't just break the world. You just made a typing error.
I forgot how to use my own tool, right? So look, actually, so 1,000 times 25, that should mean we're starting at number 25,000. That's better. Okay.
Okay.
And so we made a decision to say, look, and gosh, right, everything we talk about, there's a bunch of implications, but this is the whole point of learning this together. We made a decision to place all of the properties in the backend server so that we didn't have to rely on pinging some blockchain service, right? Whether it was the chain itself or some GraphQL server or otherwise, to see all this stuff that's in metadata. Is it on chain? Of course it is. It's one of the things that's magical about unsigs. But this data is also on our backend server just because that makes the experience on the front end better. This stuff will load faster than needing to query the blockchain.
So this is this is the backend. This is the meat and potatoes behind the unsig marketplace. So the most people that are going to be involved with, the way I see most people involved in unsig are going to be the art collectors or even the traders. And it's a very small population who are going to help manage the blockchain itself or manage the marketplace. And be able to do things. And there's different levels of, so if we switch over to the marketplace page and we look at that, me and Steve and 90% of the population is going to say, I want to buy an unsig. Where do I do that? I need to go to this marketplace.
Right.
And then I will submit a thing and say, hey, you know what? I want to add a comment. Now that's where this conversation is taking us, is that if somebody is like, you know what, I want to help out the community, I want to learn here so that I can apply it somewhere else, their big takeaway is going to be learning and doing.
I'll give sometimes, I don't know if are you able to hear me first before I interrupt?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes in software development, there's this idea of personas, like who are you doing this for, right? That's a useful kind of hat to wear. So probably this discussion about backend and stuff, this is probably targeted at people like Marmon, who developed the Discord bot, Marcio, who did some early other front end and back end stuff, like about searching for pairs, and the stuff that they've written could be integrated into this back end using this API, so that like if you put it in unsig, or more generally, if you link your wallet to the site, you can search over and retrieve the unsigs that are on the marketplace that match another unsig in your wallet, right? So that's kind of where this is operating at. I think for the vast majority of people, they're just going to be interacting with the marketplace as a user. And maybe the thing that another persona that I can imagine, which maybe we can get to, this about page, is maybe someone like Red Egg, who's made unsig.info, knows a little bit of SQL, right? A little bit, or yourself, Ken, right? Could basically edit, if you go to this unsigs front-end vercel.app/about page, it just has some placeholder text, right? But anyone who's a little bit familiar, maybe you've made like an HTML page with GeoCities, could look at that. And even though there are probably some JavaScript calls on that page to connect a wallet and do other stuff, you can just go in and look for the double quotes, change what's in the double quotes to like Alex, is a loser or whatever you want. And then you can submit that to the Git repo, and someone else like James or someone else in the community can approve or deny that request to be merged into the unsig website. But that is probably the starting point, right? If you want to mess around, you can, anyone, it's like a paragraph little carrots and heading blocks and this kind of stuff. That's like the highest, the easiest point of entry into this whole stuff, and editing copy, right? In an intelligent way.
And I'm showing this with that fully in mind. And my expectation is that people can read this. And this will help people understand what we have here, right? The vast majority of people who ever read a novel will not write one. And that's okay. They read anyway. And anybody whose eyes are glazing over right now, I encourage you to take a look at what's here, because I promise you can understand this. What's the unsig ID we're looking at? There it is. What's the index of that? How many props does it have? What are those props? You can read this. And if I change this URL, right, API v1 unsigs, and then the identity of an unsig, if I change it to some other number, say 30,000, and I submit that request, I get the information for that one, right? That's all I want people to understand here. And then look at what other data is here. We include the offer details field. So if one of these unsigs is being offered currently, you'll see that. And if you reach the limits of what this backend can do, you can imagine what's right here, and then you can think about, what other data would I need attached to an unsig in order to achieve the outcome that I want to achieve? And if you can think like that, you can make better requests. You don't have to know how to write the backend in order to make that change, but you can make better requests to developers if you start from saying, okay, I understand what's there, and I have a suggestion specifically for what to add to this and why I'm making that suggestion. there's an offers endpoint, right? We can look at all of the offers that are currently on the marketplace. And so I can see that number 1453 is on offer right now for an amount. We have the owner who listed it. We don't have to talk about all of these details right now because I don't want to overwhelm people, but you can understand at least some of this. And just to show you, if I go back to listing one unsig by an ID, again with this endpoint, and I type number 01453 here, you can see, right, here's an example of one that has some offer data attached to it on the back end. Okay, so just have that in mind. Obviously, there's more we can talk about here, but I hope this is sufficient at least to start the handoff and to help people start thinking about what they might want this backend to do next. And to reiterate, anybody who wants to use this, go for it. All right.
Okay, so just to insist on being as ignorant as I am, you know, like if I've got a few of them and I've got 3 that I want to sell together, and I want to be able to arrange them a particular way on the sale page for that, and I want to price them together and maybe price them individually, we would need somebody working on the front end and the back end and the contract to make that happen, right? That's getting pretty sophisticated because it involves every element of the whole thing, right?
You would right? So this is a scoping conversation that would take longer than the 10 minutes we have right now.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find a level of complexity between what people who have more than, say, 5 unsigs, you know, what we're talking about when we say we want to see this or that on the marketplace, how, you know, how involved the different things are.
Right. We need a group of people to come together and say first of all, say what the request is as clearly as possible. And then we need some people to step up and say, well, here's what I see the back end able to do so far. And this is a creative architecture bit as much as it's about writing code, right? Well, is there a way that we can take what's here to accomplish that? Maybe, maybe not. Is there a new little piece of data that we could include here, for example, that would help us accomplish that? Maybe, maybe not, right? And to have a better idea, right? And if you don't know how to imagine that architecture, that's part of what you're asking for when you make a request for a next feature, right? The more informed everybody is about what they're asking for, the better and more likely to be picked up requests a DAO can make to any group of developers, whether it's Gimbalabs or otherwise.
So where we're at right now, like you mentioned, the 10 minutes, I've got myself, I could probably stretch a little bit longer if we need to. But the full design of this is that handoff, that discussion of here's the marketplace. Gimbalabs, I can see it now that Gimbalabs has put forth fair effort, honest. You guys delivered a working marketplace. Is it the best ever working marketplace? No, you know, the FAQ page needs help. You're offering to help somebody help that. That's what the package is next. That's one of those first next steps for marketplace management. So we have a marketplace that exists. I can verify and testify it works because I saw that it was there and I was ready to start transferring ADA into assets. And I said, well, hell, I'm going to give this a try. And I was able to manage it and put together a sale or a purchase. So I'm really grateful to have done that because the product itself works. Is it super sexy cool? To me, it is because it doesn't exist elsewhere. But we need, as a team, as a community, as a DAO, to make it better. So the things that are needed yet to be made better are open and on the table for everybody, right? So what?
And there's two things that are, just to keep it succinct. It's
Thank
really
you.
just that front end page, which, to be honest, like I can do that and James can do that. But what we're kind of trying to see is like a litmus test. Like, is there actually interest in running this or in operating it? And it involves learning how to clone this repo, how to edit a text file, right? If I don't know if we can pull up the exact front end page for the about page, but
Yeah.
and then editing some text. It's more copywriting skills and a little bit of technical skills to how to use Git, which James, I actually learned 2 years ago, like a year and a half ago, from refreshed, I'll say, from James's workshop maybe tutorial on how to use Git. There's a lot of good tutorials online, like how to use Git to manage your cooking book, like a recipe book that you can collaboratively edit, right? For no programming skills. And once that's done, like I have no problem. Basically, I'll go into my DNS server and repoint the DNS setting from Patrick's servers, which are running the current unsigs.com website, over to this one. And that's all we need to go live. But there's this like bare minimum level of engagement from the community that like needs to happen, which is just text editing, right? To update this about page. And maybe it's not fair. Maybe you can say that like I should do that. I can understand that might be a fair criticism. But what I'm trying to do with this is to say like, this is not my baby or my project. I think this is the DAO's marketplace, and the DAO needs to kind of step up to the plate to, Gimba doesn't know about unsigs. They don't know the best way to describe unsigs. They don't know like all this kind of domain knowledge that all of you guys and girls have acquired. But that needs to be kind of put into this about page, which right now is like ipsum lorem, just like filler text, right? Saying like a kind of bare minimum description. As soon as that's happened, I'm happy to like switch the lever over, point unsigs.com to this backend, run it for a week or two, so that Gimba can debug any last kind of remaining minor bugs. And once they've done that, like I will instantiate my own servers and run it on our own hardware, right? Like that can happen. But the main hangup is just filler text on an about page, which is really nothing about programmability, nothing about functions or code. It's just about copy text, right?
So we don't have that much time. If we go a few minutes over in the service of showing people precisely how to do that, that's okay, because I want people to have this. Okay, so let's do a quick demonstration of how to do what Alex is saying right there. All right, so you have this URL. This is a public repository. All right, anybody can grab this code and play with it on their local device. And then anybody can make a request to the owner of this repository, which for now is Gimbalabs, to merge those changes into what's live on the site. All right, so I'm going to copy this address right here. I'm going to change windows. And here I have an empty folder. Whoops, that didn't work. Let me try to share one more time. Oh, there it is. Okay. I got an empty folder here, right? A folder called unsigs. I just said ls, which means just list the files here, and you can see there's nothing here. So I'm just going to type git clone and then that URL, and that clones it, right? And this is, anybody can try to do this. Then I'm going to move into that new directory here. Let me show you. If I do ls now, right, a moment ago there was nothing there. Now there's this new folder here. So I can change directory into it. And I can see all of these folders and files that were there on the website view on GitLab. And then I can run npm install.
I know that ls means list something, which
List
means
something.
whatever's in it. Yep.
Right. And right when you see this, you learn better questions to ask as well, right? The whole point is to try this. And hey, if you get stuck somewhere, we can help you with that. Gimbalabs runs 3 open live coding sessions every week. And in the last few weeks, we've helped a bunch of people who come and say, oh, that NPM install, it's hanging up. I'm getting stuck on that. We can help you through that. But you have to go try and get stuck first, and then we can help. So I'm going to keep going. Now that I've installed, what this does is it looks inside of this project, and it says, okay, what are all the packages I need in order to run this site? Then we can go npm run start. And I don't think this is going to work. Let's see. I wanted to do this live to show you an example of something that could go wrong. If it happens.
But even just to edit, like they can just open that file, right? The text file directly without worrying about NPM and everything? Or?
That's true. Yes. Okay.
I get what you're doing. I'm not trying to derail. I'm just saying, like, even this, if you just want to edit copy, I think it's even a simpler step, right? Of just opening this up in Sublime or VS Code, making a change.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Yes. Pulling this down and opening it up in VS Code. Yes. And that's what I'm going to do, right? But what I want you to see is that I just took those 2 extra steps, right? I typed, well, I have NPM installed, right? Because if you just pull this down and you make those changes, you might want to be able to see what they're doing, right? Okay, so now I have this thing up and running, okay? That means in my browser, I can go to this URL and I'll actually see a local copy of the unsigs. It looks exactly like the one that's online right now, and you can play with it so that when you're in VS Code and you make changes, you can see what your changes look like. Right? Okay, so really quick, let's go see what's in VS Code now. I have this running. I'm not going to show it to you in my browser because you know what it looks like, but if you get to this step, you go to this URL and you'll see this thing. I'm going to change windows again. Hold on. Okay, so oh, did it switch? Yeah, okay. This is VS Code. I'm going to open that folder that I just created here, unsigs front end. Once again, here's that list of folders and files, all the same stuff that we see on the GitLab site or in our terminal. And here's how you get to the About page. It's in the source folder, in a folder called Pages, and it's called About. And what's on this page? Not much, right?
So James, stay right there for just a second, because I think having communicated recently with a group of people who have been involved in the server, the Discord server, most of them are my level of, and Steve's level of, I want to help and contribute, but I need to take a lot of time to really learn this code. But what I just saw and what I do see on that screen is original sale and distribution. On the other screen, I see original sale and distribution. It says link wallet, view marketplace. How about this for a first step to get us really close? I think that a majority of the people can draft a Word document that would be ideal for the About page. And then somebody who has time when you have time can sit and partner with you and cut and paste the documented, all the text and file and all the abouts, because like Alex said, we know, you guys know how to narrate what it is.
Yeah.
You know how to put it in there.
Let me just jump in there. So the reason I just spent the last 7 minutes doing this is because people can watch the 7-minute video that we just created here as many times as they need to do what I just showed them.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I'm doing this. If you're confused the first time you watch it, you are human, right? but now we have a recording. And my goal here was to take you through those steps. And people can do this. You don't need anyone to hold your hand.
And James, if you
right.
finish this, you're so close.
Right? So here we are. We're on this file right here, right? You can come in here, you can make these changes, right? If this, yes, like this looks new, perhaps. But Ken, like you just said, you can see these words, right? I showed you how to get this up and running locally, how to open it up in your web browser, and now how to make live changes to it. That's our goal, right? Now, if you get stuck somewhere after trying that, now you're ready to ask a great question and to get the specific help you need to learn the next thing, all right? But I really hope that people will just watch those 8 minutes that we just spent there and try this first so that they know where they're getting stuck and then they can ask those questions. Fair?
And this is just markup for everyone. Like, people don't be intimidated. Like, it's HTML. If you have, like, a lot of times in middle school, you might have made like a GeoCities web page or something like that. This is I wouldn't call this code. It's markup language. I mean, it's just formatting. So it's saying like, this is a heading, this is text, this is whatever. It's just like selecting something and hitting Control B in Word, except instead of selecting it and hitting Control B, you put these little brackets around the stuff, and that's all this is. So I think a normal human can look at the website, look at this, and kind of understand if they want to change what appears in original sale and distribution on the website. They go in here and they change what's between the heading block, right, of this kind of thing. And we're super close to, like, that word discussion doesn't really have to happen. Someone does have to write some copy and come up with some good copy before they open an editor. So those are two kind of separate tasks. I do think, I hope that anyone who is interested in unsigs gets to this level of functionality where they can change any text on the website. It does involve some understanding of Git and making a pull request and committing code or committing changes. But like this is really like good hygiene to understand how to interact with things in your environment. I hope that we can all get to this level, to be honest.
Perfect. We have one question out in the chat, and I'll just throw it up here on the stream. And Tim asked, or just kind of offered, hey, might a semi-regular meetup of this type be useful to help people get comfortable? They can identify something useful they can do, or who might do what?
I think so, and I think that's on us. And I think Gimba does a very good job of having those 3 weekly meetings a week. What I really want the unsigned people to understand and recognize is that, like, Gimba has been really supportive, more so than I would have been if I was Gimba, to be honest, in terms of the reach out and the facilitation and everything, right? And so I'm a little bit sad with how kind of confrontational things got in the Discord, because Gimba has bent over backwards to try to make this work. And I think that is a testament to James's kind of pedagogical leanings and his kind of background, I believe, as a teacher, right? Because I would have lost my shit a long time ago. And so this is possible, but it requires some, I'd say, more than technical deficiency. There's a little bit of effort deficiency or organizational deficiency that needs to be overcome. And I'm happy to facilitate the technical side of things if there is like the bare minimum level of effort needed to kind of coalesce and to fight the entropy of this kind of herd of cats kind of thing that we have going on right now. So yeah. I think James is about to commit these changes and load it up, or I don't know, whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, right. So this dot here means this file is not saved. If I save this file, right, and then if I went and looked in my web browser, I would see that the text changed on my website. Everybody can go do that. Alex, thanks for the kind words. Like, this is where we're coming from. Somebody said it and they meant it one way, but they were actually exactly right in the Discord. I don't care about unsigs as much as I care about empowering people.
And you shouldn't, right? Like
that is all. if people want to learn something, they can do this. This is not hard, but it does take time. And everyone has to understand that the more expertise somebody has, the more valuable their time is. And you just have to understand what you're asking for when you ask somebody for their time, right? And so, yeah, Alex said before, could he do this? Could I? Maybe. I wouldn't write as good copy as other people in the Unsigs DAO, right? So I would rather everybody here come up with exactly the words they want to put here, right? But even if you needed my help to do this, that's not a way that I'm going to spend my time. Okay, there's so much going on, and we're all busy. We all have a lot to do. But if people grab their power and they say, "Oh, wait, yeah, I can look at that and I can change that text," that's a really, really good place to start. All right.
Is this similar to the wiki where if everyone that watches this video now goes and does everything you just did and they change uniqueness to blandness, there's got to be, this is my military, my police, and my fire background coming in, and my father figure saying, guys, is this wide open for anyone to change, or is there some certain level of control that stops me from?
Very good.
So this is the irony. This is the irony of crypto.
I'm happy to field questions of this kind. You've been so gracious and like really thank you. What do you think? I know you've been using a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So no, just to Ken's question about what we have here. Can you see? Darn it! I was trying to show you my whole screen. Here, so you're seeing my whole screen now, right?
Yeah.
Do you still see my whole screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So yeah, I can make this headline anything. I can save this file and I can see how the words on the screen change side by side. I'm local. I'm not breaking anything for anybody else. I'm experimenting with this site on my own device. Okay. So anybody can play with this. Nobody is taking any risk of hurting the project by messing around with this page. And you might even say, oh gosh, well, I want to learn a little bit more about this. What does that PY3 do? Let me see. What if I change it to a 10, for example? Oh, cool. It puts a little more space there. Neat, right? You can tinker with this and you're not hurting anything. And then when you're happy with it, then you can make a request to the owner of the repo to take those changes and push them live. If you don't yet know how to do that part, that's fine. I'll be more than happy to help you with that next step. If you tell me that there's some changes here and you just need to hop on a 15-minute call, we can record it again, right? We can record it so that then anybody can refer to that and watch it as many times as necessary to learn that next step. That's how we're all going to grow together.
Thank you, James, and I do respect your time as well. So I don't want to burden you either.
Got you. Thank you.
That is awesome.
So good. So yeah, I think that kind of covers it. What we're waiting for is to see some request change, either some graffiti to the page or some actual thing. Like what will happen is someone will try to change this page. James will see a request made like, hey, I made some changes to this thing. And then, he'll decide that looks like it's okay, or that looks like it's malicious, that looks like whatever. And then as soon as that's updated, we can just flip the switch and this can actually be unsigs.com. But like functionally, there's no difference between it being at vercel.app and unsigs.com. It's still the same marketplace. And you can still buy and sell real unsigs using this site. It's just that, do we decide to like announce that it's running, basically. And for it to be unsigs.com, obviously this page has to be a little bit more fleshed out, right? In terms of what is the thing. Maybe we want to include some images on here. Some of the explanations that are on unsigs.com have to kind of appear over here. But yeah.
Yeah. These are the same headings from the original site, but just leaving it to anybody, you're right, to just do that piece of finishing this page, changing if necessary. Alex, like you said, right? Ken, can you click on the guide button at the top as well? Right? This guide it's minimal, and I don't love the design. It's just a starting place, okay? So there's text copy here. You might want to write more about where those fees are going, right? I put a little note about how to get involved at Gimbalabs. You probably want to add a little note about how to get involved at the Unsigs DAO, right? Yeah. So all of that's up for grabs. Really happy with messaging. Like Alex said, I will check out merge requests to make sure there's nothing malicious there. And it's really easy on the owner end for us to see which files have changed. So as long as I see that only the about page has changed, right, and there's no Trojan horse in there, right, we're gonna approve that. I'm never gonna deny a request because I disagree with the words that are being written. That's not my right, right? My role is to make sure this thing stays safe, but not to be the copy editor, right? That's your end. So I hope that makes sense. If anybody ever wants to see what it looks like on my end to make them, to approve a merge request, that's another thing we can do sometime.
And like hopefully soon that editorial role will actually be someone in the DAO, like something like a Daniel Sadasant or Marmin, because ultimately, anyone can make a request to change the website, but it shouldn't be whatever the most recent request was is the kind of canonical version that's on the page, right? Like we have to, if you're familiar with how Cardano works, there's this CIP, the Cardano Improvement Process or Protocol, right? For how to change things. And presumably if unsigned, DAO kind of continues, there's some kind of internal discussion for how do we find what does the DAO want to do? And then once that's decided, okay, how do we implement that? And once that's implemented, how do we verify what was implemented is actually what we wanted to do? And then, okay, once that's done, how is it live, right? And James is kind of protecting all of you from that view right now into like the curatorial role, because you might feel like myself and James are kind of throwing you to the wolves, saying like, this is not my responsibility. But as you gain more and more knowledge, you'll realize there's a lot of stuff that James has done to keep the tricycle wheels on. Like we're barely asking for some kind of involvement, and we're still shielding a lot of the kind of complexity from your eyes, right? With the understanding that if you showed everything about how this merge request stuff goes and how everything goes, your eyes would glaze over and you'd be lost. So, I just want to.
Can I just put some context on the community interaction, because it's something that I found very ironic, and it's kept me engaged for 2 years when it comes to crypto, and that's the fact that like the concept and the possibility of crypto is very attractive to individualists, maybe even libertarian, maybe even anarchistic, right? But, at the heart of it, what will make it work is governance, which is very much the opposite of those personality traits, right? We've got to work together. We've got to have a sense of community, and we have to collaborate. And I'm not used to collaborating. It's kind of a pain in the ass for me sometimes. And I'm not necessarily decentralized, because I just as soon see it get done. Right. And so like there are these tendencies in our personalities and the way we're used to doing things that are kind of at odds with one another. And that's kind of what I see sometimes in the dialogue on the server, and in the way that people feel about the marketplace. And, we kind of got to get over our fucking feelings and just build it.
It's interesting. If you don't want to collaborate, that like this is not an attack on you at all. Like there's a model for that. It's what Jim Sanders, the New Sigs Power guy, made with his website, right? He paid someone to develop a website which had the features that he wanted, the ability to kind of display his collection and some kind of functionality that we don't have on this site right now, right? The groupings and everything like that, like the what do you call it? The collections or the collages of multiple unsigs in adjacency to another, right? And if someone is willing to put skin in the game and to pay someone to develop it, like you can be that kind of dictatorial voice that says this needs to be done, this needs to be done. But even to get to that point, you have to have enough knowledge and skills to evaluate, should I give this person money to do what, are they capable of doing what they say they're able to do, right? That doesn't mean you can understand everything they're going to do, but maybe you're an excellent judge of character online and in a Zoom call, right? And you decide, yeah, I can do that, or you can evaluate their experience. Like there's all these kinds of things, but there's this thing is I don't like it when Catalyst says like this is all an experiment, but it really is an experiment, right? I foregoed around 25,000 ADA of benefit to seed this DAO with what I felt was enough money to kind of get it going, right? And if it doesn't work, that's I'm not going to say I'm wealthy enough that 25 grand means nothing to me, but it was a worthwhile experiment to see, can people online who have a common interest and presumably goals coalesce around something when given this kind of resource? And right now, the evidence would suggest not, and that makes me a little bit sad, right? Like, but I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope we can kind of still turn this around, because that would be a much.
If I could make a quick plug for a book. This is called Mooseheads on the Table. Okay, and in Sweden, a moosehead on the table is the same idea as an elephant in the room. Okay, and so right, this is stories of self-managing organizations, and the woman who wrote this book, Karen Tenelius, she's been thinking about this self-management thing for decades.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most comforting books I've ever read, because she talks from experience about how hard it is. All right. This self-management thing, she even goes as far to say it might be impossible, even though it's her life's work. And that just felt like a really warm hug to me. What we're trying to do here might be impossible. We have to try anyway. Right? We have to try how to wrangle each other. I'm one of those cats that needs to be herded. Right? I'm one of those people who prizes autonomy, but I also recognize the value of coming together to do this stuff. I would recommend this book to anybody, especially anybody with interest in DAO formation and what might be possible moving forward.
I'll look that one up too. What's that? One more time.
Can you throw Tim's screen?
Yes, I can.
It, but
he's got two. There we go.
Yeah, this one. How many people do we think might need to be actively engaging with DAO governance to actually make it work? I will say, like, for this meeting, it was one. It was Ken, who's on the screen, right? He put it together, and I'm willing to like fill in the gaps for whatever is lacking, right, in the DAO's ability. And literally, just one person, Ken, stood up, organized this meeting. And if Ken didn't do this, like, Gimba has been offering to do this meeting for weeks or months, but it hasn't happened, right? And so I would say I'd prefer that there were two people at minimum organizing, because then I could participate. I would be a minority member. Right now, if it's just one person participating, I'm still 50% of the entity, but I want to be a minority voice in this DAO or whatever is going on. And I don't want to drive the conversation. I want to help and facilitate the conversation and basically be like what an architect is in real life. I'm not going to build the wall. I'm not going to do your plumbing, but I can connect us to the people who are able to do it. And as long as there's funds in the treasury, organize that kind of activity of general contracting, subcontracting stuff out. And I do really think that what Gimba has delivered is basically a very strong structure on which we can add on various functionalities. So when you say that the functionality is very minimal on the current site, like that's actually, I would say, a feature and not a bug, because now we can add on whatever kind of modular features or additional things we want to that framework. But don't dismiss getting all these moving parts in synchronization. Like, they've basically given us a car that can travel down a highway, right? And is it the sexiest car, the fastest car, does it have airbags even? Maybe not. But that's not a simple feat of engineering to get this front end and the back end and Cardano, the blockchain, all talking to each other in this way. So it's a kind of a huge feat. And I really do think that I'm sad with like the level of, I feel like, maybe respect or appreciation that Gimba has been shown. And I hope that we can, figure this out. But to answer this question, I'd say 2 people at minimum. I'm willing to additionally put in more work.
If I could just jump in there. So first, I want to answer this question directly, but also don't worry about the respect part. I taught 14-year-olds for 12 years. I'm good. I've seen it all. To this question, there is a market value towards having expertise on the answer to this question. Do you know how many people are going to want a nuanced, thoughtful, evidence-based answer to a question like this in the years to come? Okay. If you can say you were here now to help build organizations like this, you are going to have a very valuable job opportunity in the decades to come as the world begins to adopt these governance structures. You saw it firsthand. So how many people actively need to engage? Alex, you're full of shit. We have no idea. 2, maybe, I don't know, right? Come on, okay? But we get to figure it out together. Yeah. And this hard work we're doing right now is absolutely priceless. All right, just always want to reiterate that bit.
Yeah.
I'll add a qualifier. For the unsig DAO governance to actually make it work. And what I mean by that, James is right. Like, a real DAO, probably I'd say like 10 to 20 people involved actively making decisions, at least, right? Like and again, that's another bullshit figure.
Just saying numbers, yeah. I don't know,
I'm
might be 72.
If I'm the only person being involved, right? Like, what I see it as, whatever that number is, say that's 1, a number between 0 and 1. I'm willing to be the 1 minus whatever we have. I will fill in the gap, but I'm not willing to be the only person pushing this forward, because I don't have any interest in representing the owners of unsigs. But I'm very interested and willing to help the owners of unsigs, get to a place in the future or whatever where their needs and wants are fulfilled. But I'm not interested in representing them on my own, because I have no idea what you guys want or that kind of thing. So that's my kind of premise.
You said the most important thing, what I want, and I think it goes to what everyone wants. To Steve's point, sovereignty, which all the descriptions you just used, sovereignty is the one that rings true to me. But sovereignty does not mean like, not solidarity, but solo. Like, I don't have to be solid. Jeez, oh Pete. I don't have to be sovereign and all by myself. I can be a sovereign citizen in a community of like-minded people. We all have to come together. And if DAO governance means that we want to do 17 steps, you can't have 1 or 2 people do those 17 elements. And it can be incremental and proportional. So once something is delivered, that can dissolve and go back to do other things. So if 3 people are needed to do a certain task, you assign that task, you orient to that, those 3 people work it out, and then they present it back to the greater community and say, look, we just dug the well. Okay, you don't need to keep digging wells. You dug the well. Now go do something else in that community. So the marketplace development is Gimbalabs put together the marketplace. We're going to be continuing to manage it, but we don't have to build it anymore. We're going to make it better. We're going to keep tuning it up. We're going to, as Plutus, as Cardano, as everything develops, we keep going with it as a community. So that to me is how I see that. Tim, you asked another question, which I think is really important, and it answers your other piece. Is now we just need to describe unsigs and how to understand them in a simple, easy to read, bite-sized format. Once somebody, you, John Doe, Jane Doe, somebody can narrate that and put that together. Maybe it needs 5 people. I need somebody who really knows how to write it very well. And we need somebody else that can make it bite-sized. I can write 1,000 words easily. 3 of them are important. I might need that other person to figure out which ones are important for that. And then we need somebody right now. Gimbalabs is available for us, but we'll see where it's at. So I want to also call out Ada Boy for putting together a really great proposal that laid out marketplace, marketing, proposal voting management, research and tech, artistic development, and treasury. That's 6 different line items or task groups that are available for us to start to chunk out. So if you are watching this and we're an hour and 15 minutes into it, and you think, hey, you know what, I want to help out, I want to do something, even if it's not on that list and you think that what you know how to do can help this community, propose that, put that out there, and we'll make that happen. So I want to say thank you, everybody. I've got literally negative 15 minutes to get to work. So
thanks, Ken.
Yep. About a week from now, I'll have more time to play along. I can definitely do this again. I'm not going to say I can't do it again. Live stream makes it easy because I don't have to cut, paste, and edit and then do it twice because I want to make it right. We can go after this. So
thank you to James. Thank you, Ken, Steve, everyone. And thank you for everyone who's been listening along. I'm happy to answer questions. Maybe the immediate next step, I posted a thing in the colors channel because somebody wanted to know how to modify their unsigs. And so I'm going to be running a little just like hello world demo of how to do programming. And I do, it's the biggest failing of unsigs is that I really hoped people would kind of mess around and poke with the code more so than
I made a starter kit about that. It already exists. There's a whole
James already did it.
There's already lessons about that, and I have a bunch of fake unsigs that I'm thinking about selling to fund development work for the DAO if anybody's interested.
Yeah.
So
this is going to be even like
look that up.
How to stuff on a console, right? Like very basic program. But I think that's kind of what you did too. So thank you, James, for everything you've done for the unsig community that was paid and unpaid. And I really do appreciate it. I do look forward to meeting you in real life at some point in the future and having a beverage or something like that.
Same, my friend. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Ken. I really appreciate you stepping up and doing this. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
cheers.
Yep, right, for guys. Sure.
Have a great day. Right. Thanks for being late for work.
Yep. All right. I'll end the stream here.
Later.
Bye.